So here we go. Okay. So, alrighty. I'm Chanel Simmons with No Tax and Financial Solutions, and I have Dr. Laura Ellick. How are you?
Good. How are you? I'm so
I'm
happy to be here.
So, you want to just give a little quick snippet about yourself and what is it that you do?
Sure. I am a licensed psychologist in the states of both Florida and New York. I'm also a coach, a speaker, and my second book called Wellness from the Universe just dropped on Amazon.com. So I'm
Oh,
doing a
congratulations.
yeah, thank you. It's great.
So, what I wanted to talk to you today about is because I deal with taxes and finances for mostly small businesses, which varies from literally the mom and pop shop all the way to multimillionaires, believe it or not. But all of them, what they have in common is the fear of money,
Yes.
the fear of tax. So, I guess just in general, what causes someone to just naturally just be afraid? Like, let's just talk about fear in of itself. What causes us adults to still carry fear with us?
I think that's a fantastic question. I think a lot of our fears, there are some fears, of course, that people say are inborn from our caveman days, so to speak. So, things like spiders, loud noises, we seem to be more programmed to be afraid of those kinds of things and to feel real phobia kind of fear. Because those are things that could really hurt us physically and cause us death, obviously, which we want to avoid at all costs.
Right.
But then there are the fears that are learned fears. And what I find with a lot of people, obviously, money is not something that we know about from an inborn perspective. Infants know nothing about money. They just want to be fed, right?
Right, absolutely.
So it's as we're exposed to money from our parents, from our friends parents, where we start to learn and sort of get programmed about, okay, what is money? How valuable is money? What are fears about money? How much money do we want to have? And these are things that we can learn from hearing our parents talk about it, not even to us directly, but just conversations that we hear. And it's so interesting how kids take on a lot of their parents' money issues and money fears just from observing what's gone on.
Absolutely. I know a lot of times, I'll have particularly women who will come to me and say something to the effect of, I don't deal with money. That's something my dad did. Or I don't even talk about money because, my mom basically said, us as women, we weren't supposed to say anything, to our husbands. Like, my husband should never know how much money I make. So just, and it's interesting you said that, because like I literally hear this from clients all the time, saying things of like habits that they observed between their parents or just their one parent, they just absorbed it. And it was, like you said, it wasn't something that they were told to do or not do. It was just being in the room and being in the space.
I think one of the points that you brought up, I think, is huge, and something that we definitely need to talk about is that gender difference too, because it is a generational thing to some extent. That, when women first entered the workforce, they weren't used to having their own money because really the husbands did handle it.
Right.
So there's been a big societal shift as well. And I'm seeing with some of the younger generations, there is more an equal relationship or an equal partnership with marriage and money until one of the parents, usually the female, decreases her earning potential, decreases her salary to stay home with kids. And then you see money issues rise up again between a couple.
Absolutely. So, I mean, let's go for it. Let's go into it now.
Let's do it.
Let's go there. Cause I mean, and it's great that you say that because, I'll have it where, like, in my scenarios, a lot of times where it'll be a taxpayer and a couple. And like you said, the one couple will eventually just stop working to take care of the kids and everything, because I know for the tax world, even that tax credit is just not enough. And then sometimes it just really does not make sense because, we go into the wage gap where women are earning less. So, and childcare is just insane. It's for, and then, like you said, is an expectation, almost like a social expectation of the woman to always make that kind of sacrifice. So did you want to like elaborate more on that?
Sure. I think there is still a societal pressure for women to be the ones who stay home. And I think that pressure is societal. And then I think women have taken that on as, am I a good mom if I'm not staying home to some extent with my kids? So a lot of times, to balance that guilt, they may actually try to work from home, or they may do work when the kids go to bed. So you're seeing a strategy of women who are just burned out and maybe even too tired to deal with the money. They're just bringing it in and just, handing it over and paying the bills. But I still see that power dynamic in relationships of, whoever makes the money has the power. And in a lot of cases, because of the wage gap, you're still seeing that it's the husband who has more, so-called power in the relationship. And, women, I think, need to feel empowered about their money, because empowerment and knowledge is what sets you free.
Absolutely. And and just to reverse it, I find that there's not only just a fear of, like you said, like when there's a power shift, particularly for women, when she has less money, it's even worse when she makes more money.
Right.
And I just kind of would love to hear some of your thoughts about when us as women strive to make more and to want to earn more, and hell, be the breadwinner even. Like what's the fear of that? Like what happens there, do you believe?
I think it still goes against, like we said, societal expectations that the man is the provider. And I'm seeing a slow shift in this particular generation. But I've heard, men ribbing each other like, oh, you're a kept man. And, that it's something, really against your masculinity if it's your wife or your partner or whoever who is making more of the money. So I think there's still that struggle there too, that the man should be in charge of the finances and should be the one providing for the family, just like the female should be the one who is, nesting at home with the kids.
Right. So, and it's interesting you bring that up, because let's shift it to the guys. I mean, especially in today's environment, the fear, I guess, of debt, and I guess the stigma that comes from when you can't provide. I know a lot of people right now, especially, they're struggling with the fact that might be their very first time ever having to be on unemployment.
Right.
Or, this is their first time actually being late. So,
Right.
I would love to talk about or hear your thoughts about just being an adult, and I guess the fear of, the appearances of not being able to look like you're being responsible with your money. Just, I guess, like the ego of it, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there is a stigma for people who have gotten into debt, thinking that, oh, you're splurging on big screen TVs and on cars and on this and that. Has anybody bought diapers or formula recently?
I know, it's like $25 a box.
Right. My kids needed that special hypoallergenic formula when they were kids, and it was like $25 for a small thing like that.
Yeah.
So, I hear couples talking about it all the time where they're falling behind, and it's certainly not for lack of trying.
Right.
In terms of geographic area where people live too, it can be very, very difficult to survive on one salary. So you can accidentally fall into debt because you have a situation like we've had with COVID, where people have been living paycheck to paycheck, and all of a sudden that steady stream of income doesn't come in for a couple of months. And that's enough for you to have to rely on the credit cards. And before you know it, you're like in deep. And there's a lot of stigma associated with that. But like I said, it could be accidental debt. It's not something that you went out and did deliberately. Anybody can fall into debt.
Absolutely. And I mean, I see that firsthand a lot of the time. It's very much so where someone, well, first off, someone went to a professional as such, and they received bad advice. It could be someone, like you said, you accidentally lose your job for a number of reasons, and you go down to one income or no income, and it's no one's fault of their own. It just happens. And I know for me, I try very hard to just kind of uplift and just say, in those kind of scenarios, to just try to remind them that, unfortunately, the wheel of fortune is just not going in your favor right now, but it always has the opportunity to turn around. And I guess, from a clinical standpoint, how unreasonable or reasonable are some of these people's fears that they have, that they carry around about money?
I think, I think the way that the media has talked about money and about debt and, the student loan crisis and the mortgage crisis, everything in our culture is a crisis,
Yes,
right? And because it makes a good headline.
absolutely.
So if you're falling into debt, it's not, okay, I'm a little bit behind on my bills. It's a crisis. And, I will say, of course, I was in graduate school, to get my PhD forever. I know what debt is, right?
Yes.
Like, I know that I was always one set of tires away from like a really bad situation. So, I feel for people who come in with that, because we're not bad people. We just
Right.
sometimes have big expenses as we're trying to get up the ladder. And I
Right.
want people to understand that you can
Right.
consult with a financial expert like yourself and come up with a plan.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I love the fact that you just reminded people that you're not a bad person because you fell on hard times.
Mhm.
It happens to the best of us.
Mhm.
I know I've personally have been there, and like you said, when it comes to having education and degrees, the student loan debt is real. but
Absolutely.
but like you said, having a plan and basically working your way through it and making the necessary steps that you need to get to the next level, it can be something that you can attack. Not only that, there's always options available to you, and I find a lot of people are even afraid to even ask for the help, or to even sit down and have that conversation, to figure out the options, and to the point where it paralyzes them, where they'll say, I saw the bill and I put it in the drawer, and they wish it away.
Mhm.
And I find that that's, it of course it doesn't solve it. It just
Mhm.
makes it continue to sit there. But at the same time, their fear is very real.
Absolutely. I think I have any client who comes into me, I have to tell you, no matter what their issue is when they come in, we wind up talking about money. Money is one of the biggest issues that people have. No matter what else is going on, money always comes up. And what I'm really seeing is a lot of what you're talking about, that people put their head in the sand
Hmm.
because what they don't know can't hurt them. But
Yes.
I tell them, let's just look at everything. Pull your numbers out. Let's look at it together so that I can help you with the fear. And you might actually be better off than you think you are. And wouldn't that feel better, knowing that you have a little bit more money than you thought, or a little bit more flexibility that you thought? And then we can problem solve with your accountant or with your student loan person, financial aid person at school, and really go in with a clear head instead of feeling that you're out of control.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, I do the same thing where, in recording it, I tell people all the time, it looks, a lot of times I get the reaction even when they see the actual number, because sometimes people don't even know exactly how much they owe. Like
Right.
that's how fearful they are, and that's how big the fear can become for them. But when they see the actual number, sometimes they're like, oh, it's just that. And then
Right.
even if it is a larger number, once you can take some action steps to attack that, whether, like you said, whether it's having like a budget, whether it's, paying it off little by little by little, with installments, or, even I tell people all the time, don't let the stigma of bankruptcy, you know, become anything personal, because bankruptcy is very much so an option. And
Right.
it sometimes is the clean slate that some people need in order to start over again, you
Mhm.
know?
Mhm.
So,
And it's just numbers. It's not
it's
about
just
people.
numbers.
Right. Right. And
And also too, I guess I would love to hear your thoughts about just, I guess, the fact that money is replenishable. And I think some people lose sight of that. And I mean, what have you experienced with that notion, and I guess in helping people overcome their fears with money? and getting them to understand that you can make more.
Well, everything in life is a wave. And so if you understand that sometimes you're going to be at the top of the wave and sometimes you're going to be at the bottom of the wave with everything, I think you can sort of, take things a little bit easier. That's not to say spend everything and never save,
Absolutely.
never put away for retirement, but, have a plan so that when you are at the bottom, you don't have to panic. And I think you're very much really on point with, once people see the number, they're like, oh, it's just a number, or maybe it's not that bad, or maybe it's horrendous, but at least I know now what I'm dealing with. And once they talk to a professional who calms them down and says, it's just a number and we can come up with a plan and you can make more money. You don't have to move in with your parents again. You don't have to cut every single thing that you like out of your budget. You can do a little bit of both. Maybe you
Right.
can take on an extra side gig and you can cut a little bit.
Absolutely. There are solutions to all of it. Like there's always an answer that best fits someone's situation to, not only attack the problem, but then also place them into a better circumstance. So that way, not only will they not be in that, maybe, hopefully not in that situation again, but, they can thrive and be in a better position to be in a better place.
Mm-hmm.
So, I love this conversation. I really do. Was there anything else that you wanted to give anyone just maybe some extra tips, like someone right now who I guess is watching this and they're just kind of like, well, that's all well and good. And, yeah, it's a numbers thing. But right now I'm still just terrified. I really can't predict what's going to happen. Jobs just aren't available, like maybe in their industry or such. And they're still just kind of hesitant right now about money, and they're just kind of pushing off their responsibilities. Is any advice, as a doctor that you can suggest to them?
Well, I think there's a realistic component to that. We never know what the economy is going to do. This year 2020 came out of the blue and nobody expected that any of this was going to happen the way it has unfolded. So, number one, I feel a huge amount of compassion for people, and I think they need to have compassion for themselves as well, that this is completely unprecedented. And we really need to let go of the shame, because so many people have been let go, not through anything having to do with them, but just because of the way the market is. And hopefully, like everything else, it's a wave and will rebound, which does nothing for you if you're out of work right now, except for the fact that it's okay to ask for help.
It is.
That the shame factor, don't let the shame factor hold you back, because there are millions of people who are in the same boat as you. And just because somebody has, fancy initials next to their name doesn't mean that they haven't experienced what you're going through. All of us can. So many professionals have been out of work, people that you never would have expected, doctors, lawyers, accountants, right? People who, when they say get a job, go to college, your parents say get a safe career. Any career that we thought was safe was not so safe now, was it?
Nope.
Yeah. So definitely I would say, shame is not going to be helpful to you. Compassion is going to be helpful to you. And reach out, because I'm looking online at so many free resources available to people.
Yes.
And so, there are financial professionals out there who can help you. There are therapists who can help you. There are newsletters and budgeting newsletters. There's something for everybody out there, and it's free.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I would say, in addition to just, helping with the immediate problem, once you get past that, continue to use whatever is available and whatever you have to establish, what you can to, honestly, you really can thrive right now. There's so much, like you said, not only is it free help, there's free resources really right now to set you up in a way that you may not have even imagined. And I would say, look at this right now as an opportunity to like rebuild and dream big.
Well. Right. It's very well. Right.
It's wide open right now. It really is. It's like right now, I feel like, whatever your imagination probably can conjure up, you might be able to pull it off, because I feel like the playing field has been wiped clean. And like you said, no one was exempt from anything that has happened.
Mhm.
And the possibilities and the opportunities right now are endless. And there are so many free resources available. And there's also, like you said, tons of help, free and paid. There's everyone right now is just trying very hard to be compassionate and helpful,
Mhm.
in the best of ways. So
Mhm.
like you said, there shouldn't be anything to be ashamed of,
Right.
because not only are we all in it together, it can get, and it will be better. I personally believe. I'm staying optimistic. We still have some more months.
And I think, taking a lesson from this too, in terms of empowerment and, knowing where your money is, where it's going, especially for women, not putting their head in the sand, because you never know. A divorce can happen unexpectedly, a
Yep.
separation can happen, things happen. Nobody expected the number of people to get sick who got sick. And
Right.
I've had that happen to me, in my practice many, many times, where a husband gets sick and the wife is like, I don't even know where we keep our papers.
Absolutely. Yeah, because I will say that I've definitely been having that conversation with a lot of people, because outside of just present day circumstances, it's just good to know how to get the help that you need, keeping track of all your numbers, and just like you said, having contingency plans for anything. Because I mean, like you said, you can get into an accident whenever. You can, unfortunately, someone can pass whenever for other reasons.
Right.
You yourself can get hurt or sick, and you're not able to work the way you used to. So it's always good to have contingencies and backup plans, savings and
Mhm.
such. And all of that start with conversations, and if you're in research and resources, and getting the help that you need and the support that you need, to make sure that everything is set up in the way that best benefits you. So
Right. And you can speak more to this than I can, but don't be afraid of credit. You need some
yeah, no.
credit. People think credit is a dirty word, but that's how you get a mortgage. Like, if you don't have a credit history, if you haven't had at least one credit card, there's no record on you.
Credit is very, credit is good. Credit, I tell people all the time, credit is like literally like alcohol. Alcohol in of itself is not bad. It's not. There's some people who should not overindulge, and those are the ones who need to stay away from it. But credit in of itself is really not bad. And honestly, especially with the ones that have like the points and the cash back, you do it right. Now, not only are you building up a credit history, you're getting free money, and you're keeping your cash flow high in your accounts, because if you're charging everything to the card and then just paying it all off in one swipe, the money sits in your bank account longer, and it keeps your average higher for a longer period of time, and therefore the banks use that number a lot of times in helping you getting other funding and other lending. So that's a little free tidbit.
Yeah. So it's using your credit wisely.
Yeah. So yeah. So it's just
Miles. I have a lot of Sky miles, so I know all about this.
absolutely. It's so beneficial. And a lot of people, they believe that certain things, because other people's experiences in of itself is bad, like certain types of money, like you said, credit,
Mm.
loan. I know some people who will say, I don't want to get a loan, and I'm like, why not? A loan in of itself is not bad.
Right.
As long as you pay it back, it's perfectly fine. And
Mm-hmm.
it allows you to make the purchases that you need, to either live the lifestyle that you want to have, or to build the business that you would want to build, and still keep the cash that you have on hand while you're building that. So there are tools for you, as long as they're used correctly. And if you're not quite sure, again, that's where help comes in to help you out and help guide you in those scenarios. So
And what I've really found is there's always someone who will answer a question for you.
always, always, you know, Google College will only take you so far.
To be very helpful. If
Yeah,
you just say, I have a question about this, I need some help, most people will reach out, and you'll
they
get,
will.
yeah.
They really will. Most people will give you, we'll answer, some of your questions. But I tell people all the time, and you can always Google is there. It's definitely a helpful tool, but at the same time too, you definitely want to always have someone to actually have a conversation about your situation, because sometimes we will Google search something, and this is where I think sometimes fear sets in too, from misinformation. We'll Google something and the answer that might be provided, yes, might be general circumstances, but your particular situation may just be that particular exception to the rule that will actually completely change that answer. And you're running around with this idea of, oh, what I can't do or cannot have, but because you might have one or two variables that's different than what was provided from Google College, the Google search.
That's awesome, Google. I gotta use that.
You might actually have something that can work for you, and that's where having someone that you can talk to is so much more helpful and useful, because having that information and being considered just as a person versus just as a number, or just having a blanket answer will put you in a much better situation. And honestly, a lot of times I find puts people at ease.
Yeah, absolutely. And while we're talking about it, I'm thinking about information and things like that. This is a great time to get your kids involved as early as possible with saving and with teaching them, so that you don't repeat the pattern.
So, because we talked about that earlier about, like how we will absorb things from our parents. I guess right now, given these circumstances, like I tell my daughter right now, she's 5. And she just lost her tooth, so she's really excited. Like, she has one that's too loose right now, so she can't wait to get her next dollar. But she has a piggy bank in her room, so she's used to, like, she feels like uber rich when she finds some change, and she'll put it in there, and she's like, she literally says, I have all the monies with an S. So what are some of the things that you think we can do to like you said, being mindful of not only, I guess, how we interact with one another around kids, but what are some of the things I guess we can do to make sure that we're not passing down fears that we have to our children?
Yeah, I think being mindful of the conversations that you're having with your partner in front of your children is really important. I also think just role modeling certain things. We're trying, hopefully, to teach kids how to delay gratification. So that means, not being impulsive, not running out and buying something because you have $1, but maybe thinking about, ooh, if I wait until I lose 2 more teeth, then I'll have $3, and then I can actually buy the thing I really want, instead of buying something now because I want to just buy something. And it teaches them good habits to maybe think about, okay, how much out of this $1 would you like to put in your big piggy bank, and how much do you think you want to put towards your I don't know, brand new toy fund? And really think about the idea of how good it feels to save up for something and to have a savings. Best of both worlds, and to donate if you want to donate.
Right. So yeah, I mean, this, like I said, I feel like this is a time period in just the world where we're cleaning slates, and I think talking about just the fear of money and just addressing literally the elephant in the room. I believe a lot of us, if we face whatever our fears are, and I do love how we started the conversations, and going back to the parents, I think if we start there, all of us individually, and just think of just some of the stuff, like just random stuff that we remember hearing or seeing that we probably practice to today and don't realize it actually stemmed from our parents. And I believe being aware of it first will probably cut down some of it.
And I'm thinking about the kids. One of the things that I remember when I was growing up is we actually learned in school money, how to manage money. I learned in school in 5th grade how to write a check. Like, I'm thinking about that. My kids have no idea what a check is. And I've run into this with my kids a couple times until I learned that we had to have this conversation, that when they were on Xbox and they were just buying things, it went to my credit card. And so like it doesn't just go into empty space and nobody
Right,
pays for it. That was a
right.
painful lesson for my son, I have to tell you, because when we looked at the bill, we said, how are you going to pay for this? So I think that education too, they're never too young. We think, oh, a 5-year-old, what does a 5-year-old know about money? Your 5-year-old knows about money.
Oh, she does. She counts change, and like
That,
she, like I actually got her a bag of coins. So
Mhm.
like she literally had like the 100 pennies
Yeah.
and 4 quarters, all that good stuff. And I truly believe in her seeing it
Mhm.
and understand, because at first for a minute she was thinking quarters were worth more because they're bigger.
They're bigger, right, right.
And she was thinking they were worth more in comparison to a dollar, because she said a dollar is paper. So
Yeah,
she's thinking to herself like, well, money is all these coins,
right,
but this paper I'm not understanding. And I had to explain to her that's money too. And she
right.
said, oh. And I'm like, and that's 4 of your quarters. So she assumed just the 1 quarter was worth more because it was the bigger piece of metal.
Mhm. Mhm.
So it's interesting, like you said, how our kids pick up things, and us as parents, we have to kind of like just make sure we reinforce. And like you said, it never, don't discriminate their age. They're all, because they're younger, they're
Mhm.
picking up so much more. They're such sponges.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
so much more than what you believe they are.
Mhm.
And I'm happy you said be mindful of your conversations right now, because especially right now, because I'm sure some scary conversations are happening in the house, and I'm sure they need to happen, but just kind of be mindful of listening ears,
Right.
because they don't really understand.
Don't understand, but they'll pick up on your fear.
Mhm. Mhm.
Right. So this is especially the time to reassure your kids also that, if you find that they're picking up on certain things, to reassure them, mommy and daddy will be able to pay for our house, will be able to pay for food. You don't have to worry. You just have to be the child. Mommy and daddy have to be the parents or the adults or whoever is in your household. Let the adults do the adult problems, and you just do your kid world right now. And it's really important to help them feel that they don't have to take on that burden, because kids will feel it.
Right. Right. And then um and then I mean, like you said, like I love the fact you're talking about the fact that they're just reassuring them and just making sure that they know that you, like you said, you're an adult, it's handled,
Mm-hmm.
don't worry. Don't
Right.
worry any more than you need to worry. But I guess also too, though, how can you comfort the child when maybe the reality of the situation is we have to like maybe leave our home, we have to downgrade, or
Mm-hmm.
we're moving back with maybe grandma or grandpa, because just right now circumstances just don't, like, how do you help the parent who might be fearful of the conversation that they're going to have with their kid,
Mm-hmm.
because like we said, they're sponges, and they can see, they know.
Mm-hmm.
So.
I think one of the things that's most valuable is to be matter of fact, but try not to panic. And that's the hardest thing, because the kids will pick up on the emotional state. So, you certainly, we wouldn't lie, because kids can see through lies right away. So you can say, well, that daddy or mommy hasn't been able to work right now because of everything that's been going on with the virus, and we've been keeping you safe. So we're going to go stay with grandma for a little while, and then when mommy or daddy gets another job, then we're going to be able to pick out a house together. And how cool is that going to be, that we're all going to do it together, and you'll come with us so you can pick out your bedroom. So, you put a realistic component to it, but also say there's something better coming along. So at least it's not like, oh, there's no out. It's always going to be this way. It's always negative. They have an idea that it's going to be under control, and this is that temporary wave we were talking about.
Awesome. Awesome. So, yeah, I mean, I don't have any more questions. I mean, other than, I would love to just know, I guess, your thoughts just in general about just us right now, in right now. I know, like, I'm what do they call me? I'm technically a millennial, but I'm a zennial, I guess. I'm in that weird group there. I'm not X. I'm not really millennial. I'm up there.
Right.
In a little weird group. And like, I know for us, it's starting to be same story, just a different scenario, because it started off with our student loans, and now it's, you know, and then the market crash, and then now it's this. It almost makes you not even want some, you know, I've heard some of my friends and stuff even say, I don't even feel like I should even try. Like, I feel like all the odds are just stacked against me. And like, some people say that sounds like doubt, but to me, sometimes it sounds like fear too. It just sounds like, you know, at this point, it's like fear and like almost like a hopelessness.
It's like a learned helplessness kind of thing, that when you've gotten up, you know, 10 times and you get knocked down 10 times, you know, you give up, because what's the point? One of the things I feel awful for this generation, because this generation really has had its share. I mean, you know, the 9/11 kids, the market crash. I mean, there's just so much that's gone on for these kids. But one of the things that I'm completely hopeful for is these kids all seem to be innovative. They
Absolutely.
seem to be out of the box thinkers. They take their education and they kind of run with it. They've had a lot of life experience, and I think that really helps you to be a better problem solver. So if we can help them not get bogged down in the problem area, I think these kids have a lot of strengths that we didn't have when it was just rote learning at school and just memorize what's on the board. There's a lot more use your brain and work through things. And I think kids are very creative. This generation is super creative in, all right, well, this job hasn't worked for me. I'm going to start my own business because there's a need and I'm going to fill this need.
Absolutely. And I'm so happy to just hear that, because I purposely put that out there because I really want, you know, those who are the younger generations to know that, you know, you guys are just, you're moving on your feet. And I feel, and I feel like there's no one else who has had this opportunity or the know-with-all to just do it. Like it's just becomes like, okay, this has happened. What can I do next?
Right.
And that is truly a life skill. There's not a lot of people who can just, you know, adapt so quickly.
Right. They've had to develop resilience.
Yes.
There's no choice.
You have to be. So the next time someone, you know, tries to make you feel a little some kind of way, just be like, look, I am making lemonade out of some of the worst lemons that's been literally thrown at humanity. And yet, like I said, I feel like a lot of people are trying to thrive. I see people right now been sharing stories, like you said, of opening their businesses. They're like, you know, you're not allowing me to work from home, and there's this disease going on. Okay, I'll just make it work.
Right.
You know, using technology as their friend. You know, I'm curious. I'm so curious to know what is about to be the next industry that's going to develop from this, because it's something. I don't know what it is. It's coming though.
Absolutely.
I'm excited for it.
I am very optimistic about this generation coming up. I think, and you know what? There's nothing wrong or nothing bad about moving back with your parents.
Nothing.
No, it makes families closer. So that's not, I know people want independence and things like that, but you know what? There's something really nice when there's so much scary stuff going on in the world to be back with your family.
Absolutely.
If you get along.
As long as you get along, everything is great.
Right. Yeah, we can always work on that piece. But it's nice to be close to home, and it's nice to have that comfort.
Absolutely. And just the support.
Right.
You know, I think having just that, you know, if you have the family support to just let you know, like, you know, we support you and we're behind you, it doesn't make it that much as difficult as it would be having to face it by yourself. So
right.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and that's where, to me, I find it to be interesting, like in what I do, that the IRS still invokes so much fear just from those initials, because again, I feel like it's just misinformation, like we talked about, not wanting to reach out, shame. I feel like certain shame that comes along with that. And maybe also the consequences. Do you think
Mhm.
there's like a fear of the just like the because I mean, IRS, the consequences literally can be possibly jail, not always jail, but it could be.
Right, right. Well, I think the IRS gets a bad rap because of the way that they're portrayed in the media and television shows and all that. And it's humorous in TV, but in real life,
Yeah, it's not
yeah,
funny.
yeah, it's not very fun.
It's not
But
funny at all.
but like anything else, they're there to help. Obviously, if you're not doing the right thing and if you're too scared to pay your taxes or you don't know how to do your taxes and you're paralyzed, there's going to be a consequence for that, obviously. But, if you're trying to do the right thing and you're calling and you're asking them for help, it's going to go a lot better than if you just put your head in the sand and pretend it doesn't exist.
Awesome. So, yeah, and I mean, not only that, I know with them, they're very much so, as long as you're proactive, what I typically find in the cases that I work, as long as you're proactive, and when they send out that first notice versus you putting it in your drawer and saying it didn't happen,
Mhm.
and you contact them and try to work something with them, they will work with you.
Right.
They have, again, that's another place, believe it or not, they have a lot of options available
Mhm.
to fit your financial situation. And I
Right.
say that because I know it.
Mhm.
They to fit your financial situation, so that way it's something that works for wherever you are right now, even if you technically cannot afford them right now.
Mhm.
They have an option for you. So,
Mhm.
again, this is where having the information and knowing, I hope, ease some people's fears out there just about any situations that you have. Because again, money is one of those things, I honestly believe the more you know, the less scary it really is.
Mhm.
And you just realize it's just something that literally allows you to have access to the things that you need and or want.
Mhm.
you know because I
Absolutely.
tell people all the time, there's nothing wrong with having money, because people say, oh, money can't make you happy. Yeah, but having it can definitely provide you with things that can make you happy.
And there's no shame in that, that's for sure. And I think the more we accept that, the less shame there is overall. You don't have to hide purchases or sneak things. You're an adult. You're allowed to do with your money what you want. Just be responsible about it.
And that it's funny you talk about sneaking purchases and hiding. What do you have to say about the person right now who's afraid that they are doing well? Because the bigger narrative is there's people right now who are not doing well, but
Mhm.
there are folks right now who, like I said, they're seeing the opportunities and they are booming right now.
Right, right. And it's tough
So what do
because
you
sometimes it's in one family.
right?
One person's doing really well, the other person isn't. I think it can be really, really stressful. I think for the person who's doing really well, obviously you don't want to be going around saying, whoa, well, this has
Of
been
course
just a
not. He'll,
boom.
he'll get mugged.
Right, right. No, this is not the time to make enemies, but just being compassionate, helping where you can, but not creating a situation where where the other person feels pitied, or just finding opportunities. Maybe it's not giving somebody a loan, but maybe saying, hey, there's a lead at my company. Why don't you give me your resume and I will pass that along. There's always a way that somebody can help, even if it's not necessarily a financial assistance. And even just being a listening ear can often be good.
Right,
And
right.
heck, if you have a boat and you want to invite me on your boat for a little while, I'd be okay with that.
I'm here for that. As long as we are 6 feet apart on the yacht, I don't care. I'm fine. I will gladly go.
Right, right. I'm not taking any resentment against you. I'm coming on the boat.
Exactly. Like, I will gladly go. So yeah, I mean, because that's another fear. Like, people do have a fear of doing financially well.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I mean, what do you have to say to the person who is afraid of, I guess, being better off financially than, say, their family? Like, let's bring it back to the parents. Like,
Mm-hmm.
they're fearful of being living in their success around their family and friends, because it's two different worlds, you know.
Totally two different worlds. And it can create tension in some families. I mean, I'm not going to lie, it depends on the quality of the relationships with people and also what you do with your money. Most parents want their kids to be more successful than they were. I think that's generally, you know, what we see. This is a generation that is struggling to do that, unfortunately. So I think for any generation, any person in this generation who's doing better than the parents have done, congratulations, because it's very, very hard to do. But by the same token, enjoy what you've worked so hard for. But just be mindful of the fact that somebody may not necessarily have the same, and there are lots of different ways to help or to be supportive, as we talked about before.
Right.
But recognize that maybe not everybody is going to want to ride in your new convertible right now. So
Right. So just, you know, kind of, I guess, have like a sensitivity.
right.
At the same time, it's nothing bad that you're doing well. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it,
Mm-hmm.
again, that goes back to, like I was saying, that wheel of fortune. You know, some of us, you know, unfortunately are in the slumps of it, where others are on the top of it right now, and it is what it is. And it just, you know, if
And
you're
just
doing great,
riding the
great.
wave, because there were a lot of people and families that were doing really well before the market crashed.
Right.
So again, you know, be mindful of the fact that at any moment in time, I can be on the other side of the coin.
Yes. I think that's really good to mention, because you know, some people, um I wouldn't say it's necessarily a fear, but you know, I think it is mindful, um when you are in a certain position, because that goes into having a mindset to know to maybe save for a rainy day,
Right.
um a mindset to be more charitable, in the
Mm-hmm.
sense of, you know, it can be you at any moment, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, having that attitude of gratitude, if you will, and just also just making sure you do have your emergency funds and your rainy day fund,
Mm-hmm.
just in case. You know, it's not to have a mindset of lack, but it's just being responsible.
Just being responsible, exactly. And then you don't have to worry. Then you can go out and enjoy the extra money that you have
Right.
on your car, your vacation, or whatever it is that you like,
Right.
knowing that everything is taken care of.
Right. So yeah, I mean, this has been great. I love
Oh,
it.
it's been a great conversation. There's
Yeah.
so much that we can delve into.
So much. I mean, we could literally just go on for hours on this. But again, so you highlighted your book. Can you mention your book again? What is the
Sure.
title?
My new book is called Wisdom from the Universe, and it's on Amazon.com and on my website at www.lauraellick.com. And I have a new program, a 90-day journey restart, coming up September 1st. So if you've had a rough time, whether you've been in a bad marriage, whether you are starting over career-wise, this is where you want to be, because we're going to take you on a 90-day journey and get you right where you need to be.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Oh, I'm so glad. Thanks for
Talking with
having me. It's been great.
me. It's been great. You know, guys, if anyone needs me, you know, you can always visit me at www.neltaxandfinancialsolutions.com, for any tax or accounting solutions that you may need for your business or individually. I am
Mhm.
there for you, and I service all 50 states.
That's
So
great. That is good to know.
yeah, I really do. So, you know, for your taxes and accounting needs. So I am so thankful to have you here. You know, I really hope that this helped someone listening and watching. Just know that, you know, it's okay. It's okay. There's no shame in whatever your financial situation is right now. And that, you know, there's no need to be fearful in any of it, because, you know, life just happens. The
Mhm.
best thing to do is just have a plan, get help if you need help, and just know that things will change for you.
Right. And there are always people who have your back.
Always have your back.
Mhm.
Thank you guys. Talk to you later.
Bye bye. Take care.
Bye. All right. Recording.